Welcome to the Ralph Bivins Project, where we discuss interesting trends, places, and projects with insightful guests. Thanks for listening, and be sure to check out realtynewsreport.com. Welcome. This is Ralph Bivins with the Ralph Bivins Project. As you know, we have a website, Realty News Report. It's open to people that can type in realtynewsreport.com. Just come in and keep up with what's going on in the market, locally, nationally, statewide. We carry news items there, and we also have a podcast. And the Ralph Bivins Project is, we're lucky today to have Alex Kamkar of Bullfox Development. Thanks for coming, Alex.
Oh, thanks for having me, Ralph. I really enjoy being on.
Great, man. One thing I just, how do you feel about the market right now, man? What's going on with the housing market?
I think we're really rebalancing. I think there's a lot of consternation in the market. Incentives are going up. Velocity is slowing down in some submarkets, especially in the Southeast. But I really think that we're really normalizing from what happened over in COVID and the pandemic. And I think KB, their leadership team said, their incentives are going up and that their margins are back to pre-pandemic levels, which were, I believe, in the high teens. And so I just think that the sugar high is over, and we as a market, that sells resale homes, new homes, I think we're going to have to work harder. I think mom and dad want a deal, and I think
it's harder to get right now too.
Absolutely. And Ralph, the thing I always point to is our borrowers who are buying new homes or resale homes, they're getting homes now, with better balance sheet, better credit scores. If they're in the market right now, they're serious buyers. And so that makes me feel a little better. But I mean, the easy home sales, I think, are not going to be in our future anymore. It's got to be somebody you have to work hard for.
Well, for the local area, the median price for a single family in the Houston area right now is $337,000. That's the latest number from the Houston Association of Realtors, and which of course that means that you got to have household income of $95,000 to qualify, and not everybody does.
No, when I was I've been in our industry now almost 15 years, and I know you've been around it longer. But when I came into the industry, the median was below 200. It was like 190 or 191, and it's moved dramatically. And so we have to work harder to get those folks in the door.
And they have to work harder too. That you have your firm, Bullfox Development. You develop several master plan communities, and you've got a big one, Atwater, up on Highway 290 in Waller County right now, which is going to be a major thing for you. And but you've been involved in the market here, selling new homes and developing lots for quite some time. And but one thing about Bullfox Development, I just wanted to, most of the time I kind of ignored the boilerplate that companies have that they put at the bottom of their statements and stuff.
Oh yeah.
But you have good boilerplate, so I just wanted to read it real quickly. Okay, this is an exceptional boilerplate. It actually says something with.
Sure.
It seems like people mean it instead of just filling in the blanks.
Oh yeah.
Bullfox Development was launched in 2019 to create communities that would serve as the canvas for the American dream, using innovative land planning, green practices, and other strategies that resonate with today's home buyer.
Yeah.
Okay, the American dream, pursue the American dream when the median income required in this area is now $95,000 just to buy the typical house. Tell me about the American dream and why that means so much to you.
I think, Ralph, it is a really special thing when you find out why you're here on this earth. And I found that out a few years ago, and I've embraced it, which is, it's to help the state, to help families. And I think housing and ownership, more importantly, home ownership, is the best way to do that. We don't ever think really about housing in this very special or reverent way, but this is where people see the birth of their children. They grow up their children. They have their anniversaries, Thanksgivings, Christmases, these big life events. And a lot of that happens in and around the neighborhood, your home. You get to develop relationships with your neighbors. I mean, we have great neighbors in our neighborhood that have become family friends that we go on vacations with. That all starts around the home and home ownership. And so for us, the American dream is really under duress right now. It is becoming harder to get a new home. Older homes that usually have a lesser price are actually up now too. And so mom and dad, when they were a young couple, used to be able to get into a starter home that was a fix-up. And now that fix-up is very expensive. And so for us, we really try to price our communities that somebody at an entry level just starting out can also afford or try to, all the way up to the folks who are millionaires. We want to be in reach of the millions, and that's really important to us. So
and you've taken on kind of like a mission. It's
absolutely
American dream, to buying a house and establishing roots and your neighbors. You take that very seriously.
Oh, Ralph, you have to. The American dream, it is becoming harder. I personally go to Austin to lobby. I lobbied in the last legislative session against some bad bills that would have made it harder for the American dream to happen. And you're seeing these discussions happening in Austin, and they're happening across the country, where they're discussing how can we have more by right zoning to build housing? How can we create more opportunities for people to get into home ownership? And it doesn't happen by itself. Texas is blessed to be a pro-business state, but sometimes with where housing is moving, you have to do more to make it easier for builders, developers, entrepreneurs to go run a company and go put lots on the ground and homes on the ground.
Well, I think I know you've spoken out about, the built-to-rent market, which single-family houses built for rental from the beginning, that makes it for people that can't. Home ownership is not obtainable for them, so
sure.
This is the option that the builders are taking. Let's build these houses for rent, and that way people can have some of the benefits of a good community without but they can't afford it.
Well, and Ralph, here's the thing. I have been more staunch about where I am, and what I realize is there's an ecosystem around housing. And you're absolutely right. There's a lot of people that can't qualify or don't have I'm going to make this up, $100,000 down payment. That being said, this ecosystem has very limited people who know the trade of home building. It's the same person building 300 for rentals is the same person building new homes to sell to mom and dad. We don't have enough trade base. We don't have enough experienced builders and developers. And so they're all competing. And unfortunately, I am skeptical that BlackRock or Big Wall Street is going to keep pricing affordable enough for folks. I would much rather have a straight deal that a home builder sells to mom and dad. They have the price, they know what their mortgage is, they know what their payment isn't moving, and that they're not going to have a rent increase in their mortgage or a mortgage increase every year, which unfortunately, when you're in a big Wall Street scenario where they're owning as a corporate landlord, they have to meet their metrics. They have to show profitability increasing. And what ends up happening is Ralph's house, his rent goes up. Alex's rent goes up versus you and I do home ownership, and we focus on that, and I buy the mortgage one time and I keep my pricing for the next 30 years. And I just think it's a big discussion that we have to have. And I think we as an industry, Ralph, have to police ourselves, because if not, you're going to have what happened in New York, where a guy who's showing up is going to be possibly elected to be the mayor of New York, and he wants to talk about rent control. Well, you and I know rent control is terrible for a housing market. So,
well, that's the whole. I don't know what's going to happen in New York City, but it's a different thing from what we've been hearing from in a lot of places.
Oh, for sure.
But that could happen, he's the nominee, so.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's, I have heard, Governor Abbott mention, built around at times. So I guess your lobbying efforts have made a difference.
Sure. Well, we were really blessed. We work with some great partners in the space, great municipal utility district attorneys, ABHR, Schwartz Page Harding, who really keep an eye on what's going on in Austin, and they see these bills come across. And I've been really heartened to see that the governor, lieutenant governor, are taking housing seriously. We have to do something. Doing nothing is not an option. And so, builders, developers do need to go to Austin. I was really happy to work with some other colleagues who went up there with us at various times, and they go and they say their piece, and the legislators need to hear that because, there's a lot of bad bills that show up, and then there's a lot of gaps that happen. And for developers and builders like me, we just want a clear playing field and know that the playing field isn't going to shift on us. That's all we want.
That I understand. It's but I think you have a point with the buying a house. And how do people accumulate wealth? How do people
Absolutely.
Get if you can finally come out of poverty even and get that first house, and maybe that first generation homeowner can get that to build up to equity, and then
Absolutely. I mean, Ralph,
his children get some of that in the long haul. And
home ownership is one of the very few natural wealth generators for the middle class. You can go read the Wall Street Journal. You can go watch all the stupid commercials with the celebrities, and they want to tell you get on this phone and do crypto and Robinhood and all this other stuff. Just own a home and pay your damn mortgage, and at the end of the 30 years, you're going to be very happy with what you own. And I think for me, I realized that when we were very young, my mom had moved us from an apartment to a very, very humble house, 1978 ranch-built house, and we were in the very, very nice school district. And my mom was a single mom teacher, and I remember starting to go to school and notice I didn't have the same clothes that others had, and we were in the very fancy school at the time. And Ralph, I asked one time, and I was probably 13 or 14, I said, "Mom, are we poor?" And she goes, "No, mijo, we're not poor. We own a home."
That's great. That's great.
That's a true story. And when I thought about like my career and what we're doing, like housing has been a big part of my life story, and I think it is for so many Texans, so many Americans. And so that's why us at Bold Fox, we're very passionate about creating great communities that folks can live that dream. And I think it's so needed all over the state, all over the country.
Well, Bold Fox, you've speaking of that, you did your schooling. You did go to Texas A&M. You remember the Corps, and I know that changed you. And and I think you also got informal education by working for Toll Brothers for Jim Jenkins.
He's tremendous.
He developed a Cinco Ranch. He's with another
Telfair. They're doing Sienna right now. They're doing the extension of Sienna, which I want to say is another close to 6,000 lots if you go down there south of McKeever Road. And so,
but working with Jim, I remember a long time ago when I was a reporter at the Chronicle, Houston Chronicle, and we were driving around looking at his development, Cinco Ranch, and he would point out, well, this is these little elements, the land planning, 100%. Why this road curves, why it's good to have this adjacent to that, all these things. I picked up a lot, just from talking to him that time and other times over the years.
Jim
for several years. You got quite an education just from Jim Jenkins.
Oh, absolutely. Jim is an absolute, I'm going to call it Mount Rushmore Pantheon type developer in Texas. He's been developing allegedly, he tells me, since he was 18 or 19 years old, and he's now close to his 70s, I think. And he's developed some seminal communities that people know on a first name type basis. And the beautiful thing about Jim is he loves it. I know that he's working every day. He's at his desk. I can almost tell you with almost metronome-like consistency. But he can tell you why we put the fire hydrants there, why the street curves this way or that way. He can tell you why we pick these shrubs versus not these shrubs. And he can tell you what he's trying to give his builders what they're trying to do. And the thing that he always impressed upon me is mom and dad can see value. And if you do a good job and you give them a good value, they will show up. And I think for a lot of families in Cinco Ranch, for instance, or Telfair in Sugarland, they bought and they got the better end of that value proposition because Jim did a great job and they got the price at a good price. And now those homes are $1 million type homes when they were probably started out as $300,000 type homes, you know?
Well, let's take these two things we've talked about, you know, your pursuit of making the American dream of homeownership more attainable and what you learned working with Jim for a number of years at Toll Brothers. What does that mean when people get ready to say, I wonder what Alex Kamkar is doing at the new Atwater community on 290, his own deal here. What does he do in mind of keeping in mind what you feel about your attainable communities and good communities and places to live, and what you picked up from Jim Jenkins?
Absolutely, Ralph. Well, a couple of things. At the Atwater community, first of all, location is very important. Mom and dad are working. My wife works, I work. And so we are a mile north of 290, just right north of that Buc-ee's. And so for a lot of our families that are starting to look in there, I've got faculty and staff who work at Prairie View. I've got some people from College Station. I think dad is commuting from College Station and mom is commuting to like the Energy Corridor. So we want to be in locations where it's accessible to work within about 30 minutes to an hour. I think the second thing that we're doing is these communities can get very cookie cutter. The folks who are in our space who help make these communities go, it's a very, very small universe of people, and it's very easy to pull the same plan off the shelf and do it somewhere else. So we really try to work with top tier consultants, and we tell them, I want something new, I want something different. I don't want what you did at 5 other places. And so sometimes it's different materials. Like we have a special stone that we bring in from North Carolina. Can't find it here in Texas. We use that stone in all of our amenities and what we surface and skin. We're working with the school district to have a school sale, and we're asking the school district, let us use that stone to keep that cohesiveness. The next thing, we really try to get you out of the house. My goal, Ralph, is to defeat your phone and to defeat Netflix. And so if I can get you out of your big screen TV, I need to get you into nature. You go look at Cinco Ranch or some of these communities that Jim and I have worked on, and he's worked on before me. He tries to get you out of the house, and that's really, really critical. And so I have to do a better amenity than the last guy. I need to do something unique with planting. I need to do something unique with the spaces that we are going to be communal areas, the third spaces. In Atwater, we're working on a beer garden concept. A beer garden concept where we'll have nice bench seating, a lot of shaded area, non-conditioned space. We don't want the big facility. We want you to be able to use it, have birthdays, have fun events, July 4th cookouts, but we want to give you a little bit something different than what other people are giving you. And so we're working with Method Architecture to go and create that facility in TBG. And I've kind of told them, throw out what you've been doing before, let's do something different. And in Atwater, we are working with a group called Art Plus Artisans out of Austin to try to create some small scale art facilities that we can use in the area to give you that uniqueness and get you out of the house. And so I always tell people, Ralph, I got to get my wife and her girlfriend to get their glass of wine or their bottle of wine with the red Solo cup and go out to the park because people have pools, people have the TV. And so I got to give you something that you don't see at your house. And so if I do that really well, people will use those amenities. So,
okay, we'll have to see the beer garden.
Hey, we'll have to have a beer there. So,
but what about like Rud Girl playground equipment and stuff?
I think we're really focused on activating the space. If you talk to the professionals in landscape architecture and all that, they'll tell you that we need to activate playtime. And kid play, and we have to do something. We can't just use the primary color slide that gets faded in 2 years, kind of thing. We want to use nature, we want to use water. We want to use streams. We want to put different amenities around playing that isn't just visual, but it's auditory. Atwater is around the Atwater prairie chicken. And so we want to use different places where you can look for the prairie chicken. We're going to try to create places where we hide it so the kids can find the prairie chicken. And so little fun things like that keep the interest in people. And that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, well, that's cool. Auditory, even you're thinking that. I guess that's stuff like that's also happening at La Cigarra. You still have working on La Cigarra?
Yeah, that's our community down 362, or a little bit closer to Brookshire and Patterson. If you're going down I-10, we're probably just past the big Buc-ee's there, a few exits down. And La Cigarra is a Spanish-themed community. It's a little smaller than Atwater. It's about 205 acres. We've got great builders and partners, Tri-Coast Homes, Serene Homes, Smith Douglas, who just went public a few months ago. They're also building there. And we're using this to be a little bit more jewel box. I've really told our team on the amenity side to really think about what are the materials. I really want to have a feel of less modern. I want to have a feel of going back in time a little bit. We want to have a placa, which is a plaza in Spanish. We want to have a gathering space where you get out of your house, you come out there, and you spend time with your neighbors or your friends. And so we're really focused on stripping down, I hate to say the project, but getting it back to what is a neighborhood and a community. And it's being outside, it's getting to know your neighbors in an environment that you want to be in. Everybody loves going to a museum when they go to a new town, and what do they end up going and looking at? Art or a history museum. They want to go look back in time. They don't want to, they get their phone in the future and this all the time, So
like a little bit of historical element to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, and it creates more warmth. If I'm using materials that look, with earth tones and I'm playing with nature a little bit, it's going to be more warm. It's going to be more approachable. You go to some of these communities and it's this very whiz bang thing. Like, let me get your eyes and your ears overstimulated. And I'm trying to do less of that,
Very cool. I guess the what builders are thinking about I just saw yesterday, I believe, the RCLCO, Relco, they say, well, among builders, because of the tariffs, 85% of the builders that responded to their survey said prices are going to go up because of the tariffs. Are you hearing that, feeling that?
I think we are seeing some of that in our back end materials, electrical items and different elements around infrastructure. I think we're seeing it. I have not seen it in the sales season where the pricing has moved so dramatically. And I think it's because you're seeing publics and private builders incentivize more. So you're having the margin compression. I have been wowed a little bit in some of our communities that all recently opened, we're seeing sales on homes, in like Atwater north of $500,000 on a dirt sale, which I feel like is a fairly healthy, number. Yeah. And then in one of our other communities in La Cigarra, we had somebody, buy a dirt lot on one of our amenity lakes. And I want to say that number was like in the high 300s, and we were not really planning that is about 25 to 50,000 above what our price band that we thought we would have. So I think we're creating the value, but I do think there are headwinds. Yeah, but I think if people see value, I think they're attacking it, and I think they're getting it. But it's hard. I mean,
Yeah. Now also, the other thing that seems to popped up this year after President Trump became president is some of the ideals about some of the reforms to immigration and things of that nature. That was speculation when I went to the homebuilders convention in February. a lot of speculation that labor availability and labor cost were going to be impacted significantly because of that, because of these actions to with this immigration reform. What do you see there?
I haven't seen anything affect us per se. I have been watching the news, and the administration is pursuing, what they were elected and talked about around immigration and stronger enforcement. And I think the administration has really worked hard to start working down who has a rap sheet, who's convicted, who's already has an exit order from a judge to leave the country. We have not seen a lot of workforce items, at least our company has not. I have not heard it from our builders. And then when we listen to the conversations of the big publics when they're having their quarterly meetings, they have said that they have had really minimal interactions there. But I do think as you start running out of, folks that are clearly criminals and you start showing up at job sites in other areas, I do think that may come on. Now we're less than a year into this administration. I don't know what it's going to be like 2 years from now. So I just think we're kind of in a wait and see. The one thing I did notice, I think it was reported a few weeks ago, was that different groups around agriculture and hotel work and other areas, said their piece, and the president commented that was not where they were supposed to be looking, so to speak. And so I do think that as we progress through this administration's timelines, that the president listens to business leaders. The president is a business leader. And I do think that if the leaders in housing amongst these big public builders makes phone calls, I have a funny feeling they will listen. But
it's a serious deal. We got, the National Association of Homebuilders said Texas is probably one of the states that relies on immigrant labor the most, and that some of these trades, framing carpenter, especially roofers, some of these trades are way over 50% reliant on people that weren't born in the USA.
And this is
it could really slow down the pace of construction if things don't turn out like they did for the housekeeping staff or hotel or whatever that he was talking about.
Ralph, let's not miss the point there for a second, because I think you hit it. These are hard jobs. They're hard jobs. They're in the heat. They're difficult jobs. You're risking life and limb when you're two stories up. And we need to have a workforce that is agile enough to go and do that. And I don't know the answer to that. I'm not an economist by any stretch. But what I would tell you is, if we don't have the roofer, or we don't have somebody who performs the task of putting the sticks up in the air, it costs on financing to figure out the group that will come out there and finally do that. And you're sitting there days waiting, and the ticker is running. And then mom and dad will eventually see that. I don't know very many builders who don't pass on costs. They're a margin business,
Yeah.
So
you can't. That's how we make money. Is you can't take on absorb it all. And you do have quite a few ties to government. You ran for a state legislature last year, and I believe your your opponent was Jeff Berry.
That's right.
Who won in the Republican primary last May, I believe it was.
We have. I'm a small government conservative. I was on a city council, elected to 2 terms.
In the city of Pearland, right? Yeah.
Yep, that's correct. The city of Pearland, south of Houston. Never voted to raise taxes. Never voted to raise water rates, which it's going up. Cost of insurance is going up, which is causing strain on the American dream. And when we had the opportunity, when the seat was open and Mr. Ed Thompson retired, I got a call which I was completely honored to have that support from our state senator, Mays Middleton, who's now running for attorney general. I had support from the governor who endorsed our campaign, and we were fairly.
Governor Abbott endorsed your campaign.
Yes, sir. And we were fairly straightforward of what we wanted to do: keep taxes low, let people keep more of their own money. We were straightforward about government needs to keep the trains running and do very little else. And also housing was a big thing for me, working on those issues. I salute to Jeff Berry for winning. He's the incumbent. He won the election in November. But you cannot go up there and just play golf. You have to go up there and do things and get stuff done. And the state really needs people who are competent, who actually have sat on the city council, have actually run a business, actually know how the economy works to get things moving. Ralph, here's the thing that the state demographer is saying. 6 million people are coming here between here and 2050. Where are they going to live? Of those 6 million, Ralph, 62% of them, it's the historical home ownership rate, 62% of those 6 million need a place to live. They want to own a home. That's roughly speaking, 3.5 million. Where are we going to put those 3.5 million homes?
We need some more rooftops.
100%.
Well, what else? Alex, you've been elected for the City of Pearland Council, and then this. What is that it for you in terms of seeking political office?
No, here's the thing. When I was in the Corps Cadets, one of the mottos of the Corps Cadets at Texas A&M is building leaders for the nation and the state. And when we were running for city council, it was really driven around drainage. This was 2 years after Harvey. The city of Pearland did 0 drainage projects after Harvey for 3 months, 36 months almost. And we were really lucky. We supported a bond issue to go get many different projects done. I think that's leadership of getting things done and helping people. And I don't think that hasn't gone away from me. It's just right now we're really trying to build the American dream with Bold Fox development. If we get called again and somebody wants us to run, I think we would listen. But right now we are so focused on delivering for our partners and delivering the opportunities that we'll go from there. But the drive to serve has not gone away from me. The fire isn't really any more diminished. It's just you have to be at the right place at the right time. And I think those opportunities are going to come again. I have no doubt. So,
well, one thing I did notice while you were serving on the council of Pearland, that the lower Kirby district near 288, west of 288, just south of Beltway 8, and there's an extension of Kirby Drive there, and there's quite a collection of like pharma companies, the Lonza pharmaceutical manufacturing, and then the Merit Medical. I think they build some hard equipment, medical equipment, and other firms like that in that same genre. And it's just the mass of it that's gone up in the last 10 years is pretty impressive.
Well, they're a big driver economically, Ralph. There's a lot of people who live in Pearland that work in that area of Pearland. You as a civic leader need to realize that if your school district is your biggest employer, eventually it's not going to be great for you. And so you have to bring in other industries to help supplement that. We want to be able to produce things with our hands. We want to be able to produce things with our minds. We want to be able to produce things that people use, and we want to do it in an environment that people want to live in. And I think Pearland is one of those communities. We still got to work at it. We still got a lot of stuff we can improve, but I think industry will respond when good leadership shows up. And that's what I really believe.
Hey, one thing I did want to question you about, just get your opinion on that.
Sure.
Don't know if you're still keeping up with all that activity like you were previously, but just recently, maybe a couple of weeks ago, there was an announcement about a project, industrial project in that Kirby district that you guys have nurtured along. It was, I believe it's 300 something thousand square feet of industrial space, and it would seem to be just just that, a warehouse. And I kind of thought, there's all this medical manufacturing facilities and things of that nature, and then all of a sudden here we got
warehouse.
Pretty big amount of square footage devoted to just a warehouse. I was like, did they lose sight of what they're trying to do in the Upper Kirby, or what?
As somebody who has sat on that council, and I have followed it loosely, I have not been voting on that issue, but I would say you have to be resonant and understand the mission top to bottom. Everybody has to do it. Economic development, mayor, city council, staff. And I think sometimes you have somebody knocking at the door, and sometimes you have to say no, and sometimes you say yes. And I think we've done a really good job attracting the different Lonza type entities where they're international companies owning them, committing staff and time. You have to keep doing that. You have to keep reinforcing that. And I think sometimes you lose your eye on the ball. I mean, it's great to have the group that's going to do $300,000, but I want somewhere in Pearland to be a place where we make things, not just put a box somewhere in a building. And don't get me wrong, it's needed, but you have to keep reinforcing those things. You have to keep searching for those companies and keep talking about it. And the more that you talk about it, the more people will see it. Now, what happened there, hard to say. I'm not the mayor and I'm not the council member anymore, but I would tell you that you have to keep your eye on the ball.
Yeah, this seemed like it was like you're listening to some music and then somebody hits a bad key and you go, that's something happened. But maybe I'm just not thinking good enough. But maybe that's kind of what I'd seen from a distance. Last question. Talking about the RCLCO survey that just came out. They said something like 63% of the people in the building community and responded to their survey. 63% said we may have a recession sometime in the next 12 months. What do you think about that, man?
Ralph, I love our builders. I love our developers. I think it's very simple. We have to stop being scared of our own shadow. President Trump gets elected. Oh, sky is falling. We're doing this tariff thing. I'm generally a free trader. Generally, most of my life, that's been the policy in this country. There seems to be a paradigm shift going on right now. This tariff thing is terrible, and the world is going to cave in on itself. The S&P 500 just yesterday hit its high. Okay. The stock market doesn't seem to want to slow down. The Fed chairman told us we were going to have 2 rate cuts this year. And there's a little bit of uncertainty, but the market seems to be running pretty hot right now. All of this in the last, I'm going to call this year. And then you have Chicken Little over here saying things are terrible and we're scared and we're having a recession. My advice is do your job, go sell homes. If you can make a deal for mom and dad, make a deal. And I have a funny feeling they will buy from you. If you read the news all day and you're not looking down at where your feet are going, you're going to miss it. You have to be grounded with where your feet are and perform and do the job in front of you. We don't control what the Fed chairman's going to do. We don't control what boat brings what product from what country. All we control is what happens on our communities, on our lots, and with our production teams that are creating these homes and doing everything. Let's control those things and be in the market.
Well, that's probably the tariff. I guess maybe the tariffs, the way they were announced and the way it came out, it could have been a little more gradual, a little more.
Sure, absolutely.
I think that the method of attempting to make those changes was a little bit. It could have been done with a way that people didn't get so freaked out. I understand you get freaked out when you see it. Oh, tariffs! We're declaring war against everybody on tariffs. Trade war against the world on.
The president put tariffs on an island that doesn't have people on it. Okay, the president wants to do big maneuvers. The president wants to show that he's in control, and that's fine. He was elected overwhelmingly by large portion of this country, And you know what? I think he also course corrects. I follow my stocks, my 401k. Hey, a few months ago, not feeling so great. A lot of people bought the dip, and guess what?
Now they're good.
People's number is better. And so I would just say for the people who think we're going into a recession, who are home builders, developers, we're not economists. You go talk to economists, Mark Zandi, a lot of negativity. Their recession indicator a few months ago was 55%. Now it's closer to 40. The number's coming down. I would just say, let's control what we control. And I have a funny feeling you're going to end up still selling and transacting 4 million home or whatever number it is that we do. I bet you it's not going to be very far off what we did last year, to be quite honest with you.
We'll see. Alex Kamkar, Bull Fox Development, thanks a lot for visiting with me, and we'll see you soon, I hope.
Thanks, Ralph. Take care, brother.